Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps lots. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we're after market close on Wednesday, March 30th. We're going to take a look at Tesla today. Now, I've cleared the chart on Tesla because I think that it's best to just take a fresh look and draw in some fresh levels and lines and go from there. Now, the first thing that pops out to me, let me put an array here. So we take this high from 1243.49 and pop it to, we'll say this candle body, if it'll let me. There we go. I'm going to throw this in yellow. And we see it's approaching that level once again, right? So what we could say is it topped out there at that high and then reconfirmed that high the next day and then had this gap down the next day. And I guess this long topside wick the following day came down for several trading days and then finally had a big gap up here, up over 13% that day, but that's exactly where it hits and wicked off the next day. So that's what we're using as our confirmation of downtrend resistance. Now it's getting, if it were to hit this level tomorrow, it would put it about 1129.71 or thereabouts. So if it's able to get through and push through to like 1130, to me that's the downtrend resistance break, but it needs to like establish over it. Obviously, it's going to fake you out if it just wicks through there and you think it's taken off, right? And all that it does is draws back down and ends up closing below that downtrend resistance. So that's the first thing that I would keep a strong eye on. The other thing is if it stays under that level and puts in longer term sort of flag here, the 700. Sorry, this gets really hard with those volume candles that they put in there. If I take this and say I kind of split the difference on those wicks and put this one in here, if it does continue to stay within here, we could see it eventually, though this would take it into like June, work itself, through one way or the other on this flag. So we could see what it does if that's the case with this sort of triangle here. Now, the other thing to take note of, though it's pretty small, it looks like, because of the wicks. I think there's sort of two ways that you can look at this gap. Either it's tiny like this because of the wicks, or that wick volume is actually pretty low and that this gap is potentially a bit bigger, maybe something along these lines, which would draw it down closer to wanting to test that like 1012, 1010 level. But just something to be aware of. It might also be nothing because it's a very small distance here, and the difference between these wicks might be sufficient enough for the time being at least. But if it continues to spend time in this range, like within this triangle area, it's likely to pass through there at some point, especially given that it's liked to put in some consolidation around this level. If you notice from like 1020 down to like 995 or so, it likes to put in price action there, right? We can see all of this price action, like 1020 down to about 995, we said. So it likes to put in, price levels in there and just kind of like leave it and then return back to it. It's sort of what I called long ago in videos, the magnetic zones that some stocks end up kind of sprouting up from time to time. It's a level that it leaves it to the top side, it leaves it to the downside, but it just continuously passes through there. It returns to it, it comes back to it, and leaves it to the top, goes through to the bottom, comes back again, goes to the top. So, and at this point, this is getting pretty mid-range of this triangle, right? And so that would make sense that it's going to continue to consolidate within this triangle here, that it just continues to pass through that mid-range there. But that's another thing that I'd maybe look for if there's some strategies that you can deploy around, continuous retracement or working itself back into that range. Now, from the levels, we could put in a few levels here that seem pretty apparent. Now, this topping out today in the last couple of days is pretty obvious, right? That's exactly where it topped out there. It was the thick of the range as it was making this move, and then it was this like pivot here, right, where this candle body stopped on that day, and then it had this big run up, but that's where the low wick touched again. And then it fell through hard here and kind of reconfirmed in that range, right? It was meeting it as resistance here and trying to flip it to supports, and then, and then coming back and trying to work its way through resistance and trying to flip it to support and then falling through and then coming back, confirming it as resistance. So pretty strong level there around that 1116.55. So that's one I'd pay strong attention to. And then the other one I'd look at is right here. And it's not because it's sort of that one, I mean, that's a part of it, but I'm actually looking mostly back here, right? These pivot points here on these candlesticks, the catching of support here and here, the flip to resistance here, the flip from resistance to support here, right? With that big gap up, and then coming down and meeting the resistance there again. So, 1062 to me is the other level to pay attention to. Now, if it comes down and it can't hold that, I'd look for right around here. Catches these bodies obviously, but back here catches the support levels, the resistance to support, the resistance here, support here and here and here. So just on the positive side, just over that $1,000 level, which is also like the strong psychological level at this point, right? When it's below 1,000, it's that march up to 1,000 is pretty strong psychologically. And then when it's above 1,000, any drawdown that approaches 1,000 again brings with it a lot of sort of psychological pressure to it, whether that's support pressure or resistance pressure, what have you. But those are the levels that I'd pay attention to for the most with the time being. And to my mind, if we get any strong break, like a close above this downtrend resistance, and especially a second day follow through candle on that break, to me that could put in a nice bull run and basically allow it to make an attempt at 1,200 to the upside. And obviously, if it ends up falling through here, it would depend where it fell through, how low it is. But we have this low of 700 here, which would be quite a significant fall, would bring a lot with it. But there'd be several levels for it to need to get through before it got to there. There's another level here in the mid nines, right? This like 944, which probably in all practicality plays out as like a psychological 950 level. And then this is probably close to 900. Yeah. So close to 900 here, which you see topping out previous support there. Makes a lot of sense. So below 1,000, obviously 950, 900, these aren't like earth-shattering revelations, but just to say, if it does come down to the downside in any near future and it looks like it's going to break this downtrend, this uptrend support that it has going for it, it'll have to break through those levels and see how it reacts to those levels all along the way. It could certainly come down and hit 1,000 or hit 950 and have a strong bounce back up, right? And just kind of stay mid-range in this triangle like we talked about earlier on. So those are the things that I'd pay attention to. Nice bull run lately, but kind of looking like it's stalling out a little bit as it's approaching this downtrend resistance, which is what you would anticipate. It doesn't mean that it can't break through. It'll be interesting to see what it does with this in the next few days and weeks. All right, folks, I hope that you had a good hump day trading today. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.